Hello guys, I welcome you to our full stack development course with Django. We started this full stack development course with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap. Now it's time to dive into the back end, and we are going to be starting it with a framework of Python that is known as Django. Now, one of the prerequisites for taking this course is that you must have a little knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, as well as you also need a little knowledge of Python programming language. Now, if you know these areas that I just mentioned, then you are ready to join us in this course. Now, in this course, we're going to be building a membership application using Django. Now, Django is a full stack framework of Python. It is open source, meaning that it is free and you are allowed to alter the code as you want. Django follows a procedure of do not repeat yourself. So Django takes up all the logics, allowing you to concentrate on building your applications. So let's dive on. Now, to begin with this, the first thing we need to do is to make sure that you have Python installed on your computer. Now, if you have Python installed on your computer, then you are ready to go. All right, so let's begin. Now, you can see that I have a folder. I am opened in a folder, and the name I gave this folder is membership. Now, you can call it anything of your choice. Now, we can come up here and we open a new terminal. On this new terminal, I am going to select another terminal. You can see the terminal that is active is PowerShell, but I don't want to work with PowerShell, so I will go here and I'm going to select either command prompt or git bash. So if you like to use git bash, you can go with git bash, but for me, I prefer working with the Windows command prompt, so I'm going to select it. Now, this is my command prompt, and I'm going to make sure that I check to see if I have Python installed on my system. So to do that, if you are on Windows, you can just type Python, or you can just type py-version. You can see that I am working with Python 3.11.2. So this is the current the Python that I have on my system, and I think the current version of Python is Python 3.12. So if you are installing Python newly, you can see one of my videos that will pop up here. Now, this video is going to teach you how to install Python, or the Python installation procedures. Okay. Now, after checking for Python installation, I can just also check for pip installation. So pip, P-I-P, is a Python package installer. Just like in JavaScript, we have the package installer as node or npm. So you can say npm install whatever package you want to install. So in Django or in Python, we have pip install. So pip is what we are going to use. So, and it comes automatically when you install your Python. Now, to be sure that we have pip, what we are going to do is just type pip dash dash version, so that we can see the current version, or the version of pip that we have. So we can see that we have pip 24.2 installed. And this is going to also go ahead to show you the directory in your computer where pip is installed. Now, since we have pip installed, so the next thing we need to do is to create a virtual environment. Now, one of the reasons why we are creating a virtual environment is to be able to separate our works. Now, take for instance, I want to install Django directly on my computer, and later on I want to use another framework of Python to do another different job, and I start to install that again. So sometimes there might be some dependencies that may clash in that place because of the different modules of Python that you installed in the same directory. So because of it, we use virtual environment to make sure that we separate the environment where each of our work we depend on. So that is why we are making use of virtual environment. Now, for you, you are beginning for the first day. What you need to do is to make sure that you have virtual environment installed on your system. And to make sure we have virtual environment, what we are going to do is to install virtual environment. Now, to install virtual environment, we use pip install virtual env. So virtual env is the one we are going to be making use of. Now, if you hit enter, it's going to run the installation of virtual environment. Now, for me, you can see that it says requirement already satisfied. And the reason why it is giving me requirement already satisfied is because I already have virtual environment installed on my computer. So, but for you, if you don't have virtual environment, it's going to run the installation. Now, after running the installation, if you are using Linux, you are not going to be running pip install. You are going to be running pip3 install. You are not going to be running Python dash dash version. You are going to be running Python 3 dash dash version. That is if you are running on Mac. If you are using Mac operating system and Linux operating system. So that's the difference between Windows, Mac, and Linux operating system. But every other command are the same. All right, so since we have virtual environment installed on our system, the next thing we need to do is to activate the virtual environment. Now, to activate the virtual environment, we need to create a virtual environment and then activate the virtual environment. So to create the virtual environment, what I will do is I'm going to determine which name that I want to give to this virtual environment. So let me give the virtual environment as member env or member env. That's membership environment. So that's it. So what I will do now is I'm going to say Python -m. So for Linux and Mac users, wherever you see Python, you are going to place it as Python 3. So Python -m venv, then the name followed by the name of the virtual environment. And in this case, the name of the virtual environment is going to be member env. So member environment. I am going to hit enter. Now notice something. A folder has been created here with the name member env. And this is the name of the virtual environment that we just created. And this is still active, indicating that there are some dependencies that are still being installed on this virtual environment. So we wait for it for a while to make sure that everything is perfectly installed. Okay, we can see that everything is perfectly installed now. If you go here, you're going to see some bunch of files. But I'm going to close it. Please do not touch this file, because if you touch it, then you have touched your dependencies file and you might encounter some difficulties in solving any issue that may emanate from there. So I'm going to clear this. So if you are using command prompt, you can just type cls. But if you are using Linux or Mac, you can just type CLEAR that's clear, and hit enter, and it's going to clear the. All right, let's create our Django. Let's go ahead to install Django inside this virtual environment. Okay, sorry, we have not activated the virtual environment. So what we need to do to activate the virtual environment is just to mention the name of the virtual environment. So in this case, it's member env, then backslash. So backslash is for the Windows, backslash scripts slash activate dot bat. So if you look here, you will see that this virtual environment is now active. But if you are making use of Mac OS or Linux operating system, what you do is just source, then space. You now mention the name of the virtual environment, which is member env slash. So you are going to be using / instead of backslash slash bin slash activate. So that's for the Linux and the Mac users. So this is the command that you are going to be using. So I'm going to clear this because I'm working with Windows. Now let's go ahead to install Django into this virtual environment. So we are going to also be using pip to install Django into the virtual environment. And to do that, first thing we need to do is to make sure the virtual environment is active. Now, since the virtual environment is active, what we need to do now is to say pip install Django. Now, if you don't mention the version of Django that you want to install, it's going to go ahead and install the latest version of Django. But if you want to install any version of Django, you can just specify it here with equal to, then mention the version. But for me, I want to install the current version of Django, so I'm going to hit enter. And we are going to wait for it to install Django. You can see that the installation is running. Okay, now Django has been successfully installed. You can see that it says a new release of pip is available, and it is telling me that I am currently using pip version 22.3.1, but the current version is 24.2. Now this is because the pip that is actually running on my system is the pip that comes with my virtual environment. So but directly on my system I have the current version of pip, but in the virtual environment the pip that I have there is version 22.3.1. It doesn't mean anything. We can just go ahead to use the pip, or we can upgrade. Whichever thing you want to do is basically your choice. So I am not going to do this pip upgrade, but if you want to do the pip upgrade, you can just come here and copy this code, paste it into your terminal and run the code, and it's going to install the latest version of pip. Now we have installed Django. We need to create a Django project. Now to create a Django project, what we need to do is to call on Django-admin, because we already have Django installed. So Django-admin start project. So it's going to be together without any space, start project, and then followed by the name of the project. So I am going to call the project membership site. Then I am going to give a space with a dot. Now the essence of giving this space with a dot is to make sure that the Django did not repeat the folder because sometimes Django creates multiple folders for your project. So I want my work to be directly in the membership folder, which is this one I have here. So that's why I have to include this dot. Now I hit enter. Now you can see that Django has created membership site, and it also created another file that is called manage.py. Now, if you open this membership site, you are going to see some bunch of other files like init.py, asgi.py, settings.py, url.py, whiskey.py, and so on. Now, these are the required files for Django to be able to run. Now, let us look at the folder structure of Django. Now, if you look at the manage.py, it appears to be within the same folder that contains our project. And that's because the manage.py is used to maintain our job, to run some certain command. So we'll be needing the manage.py to be able to run some commands on our Django project. So we don't need to touch the manage.py at all. But if you come into the membership site, which is the project, we will see wsgi.py, which controls the web server gateway interface. And we will also see the asgi.py, which controls the asynchronous server gateway interface. And then we see the urls.py, which is the place that controls all the URLs that will exist in our website. And then the settings.py, which is going to be the setting of the project. Okay, now let us run this command so that we can see if our project was started successfully. So we can just come here and say python manage.py run server. Now, run server is a command that we use to be able to sprung our server to be able to see what we are doing on the browser. So if you hit enter now, it's going to run our server. Now, you can see it created this server and it tells us the version of Django that we are working with, which in this case is Django version 5.1. So let's hold your control and right click on this to open your browser. Now, this is Django installed on our project. So you can see our website is running successfully on localhost port 8000. Okay, so we can go back to our project. Okay, you notice something that immediately we ran the code, which is python manage.py run server, it went ahead to create db.sqlite. Now this is going to be our database. And if you look at this place, you will see it says you have 18 unapplied migrations. Your project may not work properly until you apply the migrations, admin, auth, content type, session, run, python manage.py, migrate to apply them. Now, what is this thing saying? Now, first of all, let's close this server. To end our server, you just type Control C. And our server is now closed. Now, this to run this migration. Now, what is a migration? A migration is just to create a table of database, to create some certain tables on our database. So this particular migration that this thing is trying to show to us is such that controls the backend, that's the admin areas of our website. So to do that, we can just say python manage.py migrate. And you will notice that some bunch of migrations will be done. Now, this migration has created a lot of things on our database. If I come here and click on this, now you are going to see the tables, ID, name, and so on, users. You can see ID, password, last login, super admin, username, so on. So this is coming from my database. Now, the reason why this one is showing me this is because I have an extension for DB, that SQLite. So if you want to be able to see these things on your own IDE, just try to install an extension that is called SQLite. Just go here to the extensions and search for SQLite, and you get it. SQLite. So this is SQLite viewer. You can see it here. So click there and click here to install it. Once you do that, you'll be able to see all the databases from the SQLite. So let's go back to our file. Now we need to do something. Now we need to create another thing, which is to create an app, a Django application. Now, what's the difference between Django project and Django application? Now, the Django project, just like like Facebook, let's use Facebook as an example. So on Facebook, you have so many applications on Facebook, which is Facebook is the project. And if you look into Facebook, you see Facebook Business, which manages business accounts. You see Pages, which manages the page. You see Chat, which manages the chat. That's the messenger. You see the to-do list, and then you see Facebook Market and the TV and so many other ones. And these are different components of the project. So an application is the different components of the project. Okay. So for this, we are building a membership application. So there should be so many components of our application. So the first component we are going to be building is the membership. Then the next other components depends on what you want the members to be able to do within the application. So we are going to create an app and call it members. Okay, so let's do that. So to create a Django app, what we need to do is just to come to your terminal and type Django dash admin start app, and then the name of the app. I'm going to call it members, and I'm going to hit enter. Django admin. Oh, I made a mistake in the spelling, so always make sure that your spellings are correct. Django dash admin start app, and then members. Hit enter. Now you can see members has been created in the same directory that contains our projects and our virtual environment folder. Okay, so what we need to do now is to do a little customization to this. So I need to go to the project and tell it that I have an app that I want to include into this project. So on this application, Django project, I am going to click on it and go to settings.py. Let me bring this one a little bit down. Let me delete this comment which was made by Django. Now we scroll down to the installed app list. So this is a list of applications that has been installed on our Python, on our project by default. So I'm going to come down here and add my own. So I am going to add the name of that app, which is members. So I have added the members to my application. So my Django project will now recognize that this app belongs to this project. So that's the essence of adding it here. Now, once I am done with that, my project can now detect the application, but it cannot know how to run this application if I don't tell it how to do that. And because of it, there is what we call URL mapping or URL routing. So we need to understand how to set each of the URLs so that Django will know where to place each page, because Django follows what we call MVT, which means model view template. So Django is going to follow that pattern. And what is a model? Now, a model represents our database, where the information is coming from, where the data is coming from. Whereas the view represents what controller will do. It controls how that data is transferred into the template. So it controls that logic that will tell the template what to do with the data that it receives from the model. Then the template is the place the user will see. It contains the HTML, CSS, and the HTML, which represent the structure of the website. That's the front end. So when that data is gotten from the model, which is representing the database, it is entered into the view. Now the view will now filter that data and see whether that person that is requesting for it from the template has the privileges to be able to access that file or that particular data. Just like your login or your register pages automatically are in your HTML, but the data is coming from the database. So when the data is coming from the database, the view will filter it first and then send it into the template for the user to see. So look at this place. If you come to the app, that's the app we created, you are going to see models.py. Now, this models.py is the model that we are talking about. It's going to control the database, and this is the views.py, which is going to control the logic on how that data is going to be transferred into the templates. And we don't have templates already, so we are going to be taking it one after the other. So the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we set up our URL. So we come to this app and set up the URLs to this app, and then we have to include it into the project's URL. So the project already has a URL, which is the admin URL. If you go to the URL, you see URL patterns, and then you see admin slash. So which means if I go to the URLs of this particular website and append slash admin to it, I am going to see the admin page. Now let me show you what this thing is telling me. So watch. I am going to just say Python manage.py run server. Now my server is running. Let's go back to our website and refresh it. Now we can append slash admin here. Now you can see Django administrator. Now this is because we have the admin URLs included in our Django project directory. So if you go to my Django project directory, you will see path admin slash. So admin slash is that slash admin, and it's going to control admin.site.urls. So this is coming from the admin application. So admin has already been created for us. Django is taking care of that one. What we only need to do is to take care of our application. So that's one of the benefits of using Django to do your work, because you are most likely not going to be writing everything from scratch. So let's close this. So let's go to the application, which is member, and we are going to right click here and create a new file. That new file is going to be called urls.py. Now on the urls.py, what I am going to do is I am going to import some certain things. So I am going to import from Django.urls, import path, and so on. So, but let me show you where to get some of these things, because you cannot memorize all these things. So come to w3school/Django/index.php, and this is the Django training. So if you come here and read all these things, you will understand Django. But let's just follow up with the URLs. Okay, so if you look at this, you said create a file named urls.py in the same folder as the views.py. So we have done that. So let's just go ahead to copy this. This is the only thing that we need to copy there. And we can come back to our project and minimize. So we don't need this one again. So let me remove this, make sure we are on the front page. I am going to paste what I copied, but I'm going to remove these members here. And I'm going to leave this one empty because I want it to be in the front or the first page that anybody is going to see. That's why I am doing this. And this is going to be controlling the views.home. Just don't bother yourself about this. I am going to still create the view. And let me call this one home as the name. Now, the essence of views.home is that if you come to the views.py, you need to create your view. You can see where Django tells you to create your view here. And when you create your view, it's going to be a function. So being a function, you are going to then import that function into this place. That's why you are saying from dot import view. So this dot means from the current folder or from the current directory, import views. So we are now importing these views, and when we import it, we now make use of that function that we created. I am still going to show you that. So now this is going to take us to the main or the home page. So that is basically what this is going to be. So we can come to the views and we create that view. So we are going to create a function. Let's call it home, and it's going to take a request as its parameter, and within it we are going to return the render. Now I am going to just do something else. From Django dot http import http response from Django dot http import http response. Now here I am going to return HTTP response. Let me remove the request argument, and then let me return just a string at this place. Welcome to my app. So now let's rerun our server. So most likely to end this server and run it again. Now go to your website. If I refresh this, okay, so there is an issue. Now the issue is I have not told the project where to place my home. So what I will do is I will come to this urls.py on the project folder. You can see, let me close this one so that it will be clear to you. This is membership site, which is our project. If you click there, you see urls.py. Click on the urls.py and add the URLs of our app. So we are going to do something here. We're going to import include as well. So we have imported include, and we're going to now use it path, and this is going to come in from here, and it's going to be members include member members dot urls. Now, so what we did now is that we included the URLs on the members app into the project. So let's go ahead and refresh this page. So you can see it says welcome to my app. So it is now displaying the URLs that is coming from this particular application. So that is what just happened. I hope this is clear. If you have any question, make sure you ask it using the comment section below. It is very important that you ask questions in any class so as to be able to understand clearly what every aspect of this thing entails. All right, let me close off this one. And you can also do some other customization, like you can use your HTML like H1 here, and it will still work perfectly. H1. Now if I should run my server again, you can see my server has rerun, and if I refresh this website, you see it is rendering the H1 tag. Now, but take for instance, we want to render all the pages of our HTML. We cannot be able to do it. But one thing I want us to do is let us add one more page before we proceed. So let's add one more page. So let's have about. So let's create the function for about text request, and it will return HTTP response of about my app. Now let us go to the urls.py. Now the urls.py we are going to is the one in the app. So we can come here into the URL patterns, and we can add the path again, and it's going to take include, and it's going to, sorry, not include, it's going to take views dot about. So always make sure that you are using the exact name that you made use of in the views.py. Views.about, and we can set the name as about. Now we can now rerun. You see, if we append slash, so there is an issue. Let's see this. We have to set this one to about slash, so that such that it takes us to the about page. So if I come here and put slash about, hit enter, you can see about my app. And if I go back, you can see the home page. So this is how we do the URL mapping or URL routing. So now, most of the things that we do cannot be done just with returning just HTTP response. So we need to have a template to make everything look easy and better. Because if I want to do something here, maybe let me close this and go to the view. So let's say I want to write all the pages here, then you notice that it's going to be scattered and it's not going to be arranged. So we need to arrange everything, and that's why we need to create a template. So we are going to do something to create a template. So to create a template, we come into the directory that contains our folder, that's our application directory. Inside this application directory, we go ahead and create a folder and call it templates and hit enter. Then inside these templates, we can create a file, call it anything. Let's call it home.html. So this is our HTML, and let us create our default HTML. Call this one Django training. Let's use H1. Hello world. This is my first Django application. Okay. Now, after doing this, so we have our HTML, and we want to return this HTML as our pages. So we can come to the views, and instead of returning HTTP response, I'm going to remove it, and I'm also going to remove this import here. I will also remove this. So now I am going to now return render instead of returning HTTP response. You can see the render here. We use render to return our templates. So we can say render, and what we want to return here is going to take this argument, which is request, and it's also going to take our home.html. So automatically, if my server reruns and I go to my home page and refresh it, I am going to have to written. Okay, so one of the reasons why we encountered that error was because we did not rerun our server. So when you do major changes to your Django project, always remember to close your server and rerun that server again. So you can see what we have here. Hello world, this is my first Django application. So by now, Django is now returning our HTML template. So this is the first part of our Django. I am going to end this video now because it is getting too long. You can see it's just almost 45 minutes. So I'm going to end the video here, and the next video will come up, which is going to start from um, how to add our static files like CSS, JavaScript, images, URLs, and then we look into the models and the query sets and how to do some basic operations on them. So I thank you for joining me, and take care. I'll see you in our next video. Peace.